What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Prosperity Through Multifamily Real Estate Investing podcast. I'm your host, Cody Laughlin, and we have a very special guest with me today, Mr. Jonas Bordo. Jonas, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Cody. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, man, absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you here on the show. Looking forward to our conversation. But before we get to that, let's tell listeners a little bit more about you. So Jonas is the CEO and co-founder of Dwellsy, the free residential rental marketplace that makes it easy to find hard to find rentals. Prior to the co-founding of Dwellsy, Jonas was a senior executive at several leading real estate firms, including Essex Property Trust and Bentall Green Oak, and was the Boston Consulting Group. Was the Boston firms. Hang on, let the re-record it. And was with the Boston Consulting Group after graduating with his MBA from the University of Chicago Booth School of Business. He is the husband of Rosalind and a father of Bailey, Zach, and Tia.
Thea.
Thea, cool. An avid hiker, lifelong learner, and a maker of things, sometimes out of wood. So very cool background, Jonas. Again, glad to have you here, man. Tell us a little bit more about kind of your professional career, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, absolutely, Cody. Thanks again for having me on the pod. I appreciate it. In terms of professional career, I've done a range of different things. I actually started off in the marketing world, building brands and, doing all of that kind of work. It's fun to see some of the brands that I built back then, including Sirius XM, Sirius Satellite Radio, still out there in the market. But that's a long time ago. I went to business school and just really had the real estate bug coming out. Ended up at the Boston Consulting Group, where I got a chance to do a bit of that work, but not as much as I wanted to. And so ultimately gravitated in that direction. Started my own management consulting firm in that space for a while, working with all kinds of folks from, Four Seasons and Heinz Group and all sorts of others. And then went and joined one of my clients, which is Bentall Green Oak. So got to spend some time there, really seeing how large scale investment management is done up close. We were managing $40 billion of other people's money. It was, fiduciary responsibility at the highest level, and just a spectacular team. It was such an honor to be a part of that business, which we ultimately sold to Sun Life out of Toronto. And then I went to Essex, where I got the chance to go really deep on apartment operations and multifamily operations. I've been a individual investor in small scale multifamily condos and 3 flats, that sort of thing myself. But this was my first chance to actually be responsible for 60,000 apartments and have to rent 30,000 apartments a year, which that's quite the effort. And, frustrations that I experienced firsthand there, as well as talking to hundreds and hundreds of renters and just seeing how bad it was for them. Led to the founding of Dwellsy, and kind of some of the central insights that led us to believe that Dwellsy needs to exist. And so it's been about 2 years of running and building Dwellsy, and I'm proud that we're now the largest listing service in the country with more inventory than anybody else. And we're just, starting to get embraced by more and more consumers every day. And it's been just a blast.
That's awesome, man. And congratulations on that success. I mean, obviously the tech space is very, very competitive, and to have that type of success in such a short amount of time is very inspirational, man. So congratulations to you and your success and your experience. I mean, you've worked with a lot of big name brands, as you alluded to. So you obviously have a very niche experience in that regard. And so, no surprise that you've been able to build your business and get to where you are now. But tell us a little bit more. I want to kind of go back and dive into, you kind of briefly touched on this just a second ago about the motivating factor in creating Dwellsy, but, tell us a little bit more about the demand and the need that you saw in the marketplace and kind of what inspired the development of the company.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of those where the day I decided to do Dwellsy, I was literally raging to a friend about how horrible this market is and how everybody's getting screwed. The landlords are getting screwed. The renters are getting screwed. Everybody's getting screwed. And the people who are, on the other side of that don't even know that they're doing it. They're just running their business the same way they've always run it. But it's just it's a kind of a bit of a toxic stew in terms of how it's been running for a while now. And I felt it needed to change for a long time. And, some of the aspects of it that were most frustrating for people are, if you're a renter looking for a place, there is no good way today to go and find your place. There are 1,000 different websites that you have to go to. And you really, the smartest thing you can do right now is go out and drive around your neighborhood that you want to live in and look for for sale signs on the yard. Like that's how bad that industry is right now in terms of how it's serving the renters. And on the landlord side, if you're a landlord, you're trying to figure out how do you advertise your place. There's no good tools available. You go to, the legacy places like apartments.com or Zillow, and it's all these massive, 300 unit apartment communities, which is a tiny slice of the rentals in the market and a tiny, even tinier slice of the landlords in the market. But you can never compete with those as an individual landlord. And those folks are frustrated with the infrastructure and the way it's working too. It's increasingly expensive. I had running those kind of properties at Essex, I had my marketing expenses were going up sometimes by 30-40% a year, which is intolerable.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the two-sided frustration with how the infrastructure works today in the space and what the opportunity needs to be fixed. But the other thing that's attached to all this is the only aspect of investing that is not quantitatively oriented. And there's a ton of information out there in every other asset class that can help you make a decision. You want to buy stocks, there are, whole industries of people who can help you make a decision and understand a stock to purchase. There's nobody who can tell you if that 3 flat's a good investment or not. So we think we can be that partner who can help you do that.
Yeah. That's a very good point. And one that I think is going to be very compelling for a lot of people is, especially those, what we're seeing right now. And look, I'm one of these few that, look, we just got into space. We've heard about multifamily, we've heard about the success, and, everybody's been attracted to this model, but it's not as easy as it sounds. And so, and you have to be careful. You have to make sure that you have a fundamental understanding of this industry. And so, like you said, having somebody like yourself that's creating a platform that could potentially help be that, I don't know, say guide if is the right word, but is very impactful, Matt. So I'm glad to hear that. So, I want to get into how we as the operator, the owners, can benefit from using Dwellsy. But before we do, I actually want to look at this from the aspect of the end user or the renter themselves, and kind of understand from their perspective on what they're going to get from using your platform and what they can expect. So that way we have an understanding as owners, how we can better serve our tenant base.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's it's a challenge because you want to operate, all of us who have managed properties want to operate as efficiently as possible. And that means when you have an availability, you want to get the word out as quickly as possible and as efficiently as possible. And man, you can spend, a dozen hours trying to figure out the right words to describe this unique property and what makes it special. So you can take a ton of time into that if you want. And that's not necessary. I think in order to meet the renter need, they need a couple of things. They need to really understand, one, every place has a core of the value proposition that makes it special. Is it surprisingly large compared to other places in its competitive set? Is it within walking distance of great shops and restaurants? Is it super transit optimized where, you can get on the highway in 30 seconds, or you can, every place has like something like that. So there's no need to, that because you bought it, and you probably bought it because of that reason. So talk about that. And then everything else is just, the more description you can offer people in whatever you're communicating about the place, the better. So, I'll give you an example. One of the most frustrating things for dog owners out there is, I got a golden retriever. Well, how much does your golden retriever weigh? Does it weigh more than 75 pounds? Less than 75? Like everybody's got these constraints that make total sense within your context, but can make it really frustrating for the renter who is trying to determine whether their lifestyle fits into your property. So you've got your rules. You decided on what your rules were and what your parameters were around who you wanted to specialize in when you decided to serve your target market in the rental market, and be upfront and transparent about that and give all the information you can.
Excellent. Yeah. Great point. And this is kind of why I really wanted to talk about this, is because, as owners, it's just not about the business. It's about improving the quality of lives of those who are, the residents of our communities. How do we improve their living environment? And so, you really want to be a service to them and whatnot. So having, these points, the value add or the value proposition, being very descriptive and upfront and transparent. I mean, it's a great way to appeal to the right tenant base that you're trying to target. So,
and Cody, I'm so glad you're using those words, because what you've just said is really important, because I think a lot of people get into this business. They buy their first, single family home for rent, or they buy a 3-unit building or a 4-unit building, and they're looking at it as a financial transaction. And that's absolutely a part of it. And you need to be thinking in that way. But you are providing a service, and you're not just providing any service. You are actually responsible for somebody else's home. And in my mind, that is a sacred concept. We all should feel secure, comfortable, and happy within our homes. And you're responsible as a landlord for making people feel secure, comfortable, and have the opportunity to be happy within that home. And that's a huge responsibility. So if you're not willing to take that responsibility, there's great property managers out there who can help manage that property, and you can truly be a financial owner. There's a cost to that, of course, as there always is. But anybody who's going into this business really has to think about that and evaluate whether they're that service provider and whether they want that responsibility as well, because it's not just a financial transaction.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and I appreciate you kind of emphasizing that as well, because yes, we're out there, we're trying to build our business, and we're obviously these are verticals that we're using to transact, but at the same time, we're looking for opportunities to give back to our communities and whatnot. And this is a great way to do that. And look, you don't want to be a slumlord. I mean, you don't want to be that guy that owns the building that's roach infested and whatever. I mean, yeah, you can. Maybe you are that guy, but at the end of the day, you're not really giving back to the community.
Yeah.
You're not really providing a good service. And to me, that's just not what this industry is about. And I'll tell you, I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but we talk about this a lot on the show, where I love this multifamily community, and that in general, I would argue that most people have this type of mindset where it's like, hey, how do we give back? How do we improve the customer experience or the resident experience? And I think those are the ones that are really successful in the industry, is when you put that value on the people living in your building,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I've met so many wonderful folks in this business who really feel that keenly, like that sense of responsibility for their community and that sense of ownership for the experience that people have living in their homes. And, that is the kind of thing that can make an enormous difference. And I've seen, I have friends who have been landlords who've had, zero turnover for years and years and years, who have, consistently run a very good business. They've passed on, market rents, or in some cases better, to their renters, who are thrilled to be in their place for the long term, because it's a great experience, because they've created predictability, because they've built a strong relationship, because the renter knows that the landlord appreciates that it's their home and feels like the heat out problem just as keenly as they do, or the fact that the drain's not draining. They're just as frustrated by that as the resident is, and they're on it when something's wrong. And, that makes an enormous difference. And there are, most of the people who get into this business have either that perspective or the financial perspective. And I think either one of those is great. Just recognize which one you are. And build around it.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. We had a guest on the show many weeks ago, a guy that I look up to. His name is Bruce Willett, and he said it so eloquently. He's like, if you take care of your residents will take care of your building. And from a business owner perspective, looking at it from a business, being that we are offering a service, i.e. a living dwelling for somebody to live in, you want to provide a top-notch service. That way
Yep.
people stay. And if they appreciate where they live, like you said, if they're comfortable in their homes, if they love the community they're in, they're going to take care of your place. And this can
Yep.
be a very capital intensive business if you're dealing with deferred maintenance and repairs and maintenance and things like that. So if you have a good tenant base that's caring for your property, whatever, it can make you really sleep much, much better at night as a business, as an operator, knowing that your tenants are happy, they love the community, and they're taking care of your place. So
Yep. Yep. No, it absolutely pays for itself. It's the smart strategy in my experience. Over and over again, I've seen that. Taking care of the assets means the renters know it's taken care of, which means they have an incentive to keep it taken care of, which means, either they're doing their part more effectively than they might be doing otherwise. But also they're quick to let you know, because they know that you care and they know that you're on it when they let you know. And so you don't find out 3 weeks later that there was a leak and, you didn't get a chance to address it at the time when it was a $500 problem and now it's a $50,000 problem. Yeah. Right. And that makes that kind of communication loop, and the renter reasonably expecting that you're going to do something about a problem massively reduces your costs.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. And, as we kind of pivot and looking on the other side of this, I wanted to kind of highlight, I meant to mention this at the beginning of the show, so I'm sorry, but I love the fact that, you're an investor yourself, as well as, a business owner. You've got your company and your platform now, but I love that because you have that perspective, right? You have that perspective from not only a business owner in the regard of your platform, but also as an investor providing these same services that we're talking about. And so, like I said at another show, it kind of gives you a 360 view of the industry. And so I really, really cool that, you wear both hats. So
thanks. Yeah. It's funny, across the rental space, I feel like I've worn every single hat. I've been a renter many, many times, including quite recently. So I know what that experience is in both small scale and large scale properties, as well as, short-term and other forms. And, I've owned some of these properties in a variety of different ways. I've been an investor through, investing with fiduciaries who are investing in this sort of thing, and been a principal responsible for a large scale operations. So it's I don't know, I feel like I'm what I'm doing right now, I could not possibly be more prepared for in some ways, which is an unusual gift to be able to have. But I'm very honored that I get to serve the community in the way I do today.
Yeah, man. It's really cool. And again, I think what it ties into is again, you look at your company Dwellsy now, this platform that you built and the success you've had. A lot of that experience and preparation has translated into your platform because you understand both sides as an owner and as a renter, like you said. And so really, really cool, man. Always like to get that perspective. But so cool. Let's get back into how the platform then, how does Dwellsy benefit us as the owner, or how can we leverage your platform to kind of help give the tenant, if you will, a better experience or get attracted to our product that we're providing?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Dwellsy factors in a bunch of different ways. So if you think about it, the core, the biggest expense and opportunity you have in terms of the operations is vacancy. Right. So if you're owner and operator of a property and you end up with 3 months of vacancy, like that's a really rough quarter for you. So, making sure you get your units filled effectively makes a huge difference. And what you need are tools to efficiently get the word out and make sure that you are covering all your bases in terms of that. So getting visibility for your vacancy is huge. So how do you go about getting that visibility? I wish I could tell you that Dwellsy was that whole picture. And someday I will hopefully come back on your show, Cody, when you have a huge empire, and we'll chat again. And I'll be able to say that all you need to do is be on Dwellsy. That's not the case today. Listing a property on Dwellsy is one piece of the picture today, but you got to do other things as well. So we can definitely help with that. Bringing your vacancy to the renter community, making it findable on the web, and representing it in a really professional and effective way. And Dwellsy is completely free. We have a very different view on what a rental is than the traditional listing service approach. We don't think you're selling shoes. We think you have amazing content. and we want to honor your content and show it professionally and effectively, and make it available to the people who are seeking out that content. And we don't think you should have to pay to provide your content to us. So Dwellsy is completely free. We're integrated with most of the major property management software systems. So if you're using property management of any type, you can get onto Dwellsy through that property management software. If for some reason you're using property management software that doesn't integrate with Dwellsy, let me know, jonas@dwellsy.com, and I'll get integrated with them. We're working our way through all of the long tail of property management software systems now to make sure that we're available everywhere. But that property management software integration is important for a couple of reasons. There's a tremendous amount of fraud out there. And if you look at Craigslist in particular, which has been an important tool in this business for both renters and landlords for a long time, Craigslist has basically been eviscerated by the fraudsters on there. An industry study I saw about 2 years ago showed that at that point, about 70% of the rental listings on Craigslist were fraudulent.
Wow.
And it's not like you might find some fraud on there. Most of the stuff you're looking at is fraudulent. And, that's the risk. So one of the ways that we're ensuring against that right now is making sure that people have a relationship with a property management software provider. And whether you're managing 1 unit or 100 units or 10,000 units, there are property management software solutions available to you. So that's kind of the path to Dwellsy today.
Yeah, I love that, man. You're absolutely right, man. That ability to be able to integrate them across multiple platforms is huge, because there's a bunch of different property management companies out there, a bunch of different softwares out there available,
Mm-hmm.
and so everybody kind of uses a variety of different tools, and so that's a very powerful component of Dwellsy. I like that. So I want to kind of go back to the idea, and I'm gonna put you in the hot seat here, if you
Please.
don't mind. The idea of this being a completely free software, and in my own experience, I've kind of learned through a bunch of very expensive mistakes that sometimes free is not always better. So
yeah.
But obviously, Dwellsy is very much recognized. You guys, are definitely becoming industry leaders in this space. But what could you give anybody any advice as to, if they hear that completely free and they may go, I don't know, am I going to get the same quality, or am I going to get the same service? Hey, what's the customer service for me as the owner when I'm working on your platform, if I'm having questions or issues or whatnot? Like, talk to me a little bit about that, to kind of give those who may have the same mindset a little bit of ease, if you will.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and I'm glad to be on the hot seat on that question for sure. There are unfortunately, there is a long history of free products that are either not really free or are not good. And I think in particular for listings, there's been this concept of it's free to list, but you owe us $500 if you actually get a lease out of it. And they're going to decide that you got a lease, whether or not you actually believe that you got a lease. So a couple of things about it. Dwellsy is a for-profit organization. We are not a not-for-profit. So it is not the kind of thing where everything is free and there's some, sneaky secret thing. We are very intentionally not charging for listings. We are not charging a variable fee if we send you leads. We are not charging a fee if you sign a lease. And the reason all those things are free is back to this content point that I made. We don't think anybody should be charging for those things. It's not because we don't want to make money. It's because it's ridiculous to charge for those things. It would be, like charging to put your profile up on LinkedIn, or charging you to have a Twitter account or something like that. Like this is content that the property managers are providing to the people who need to get access to it. We are going to make money in very different ways. We're going to have a variety of services that are going to be available for renters, things that help them manage their search, conduct their search more intelligently, and really provide a better search experience as they look for their next home. And for the landlord, small landlords and large landlords will have a variety of different services available to them. Things like making sure, if you want some assurance that your listing is fair housing compliant, we'll be able to help you with that for example. Lots of small landlords in particular watch your fair housing. There's a lot of surprises in fair housing, and so you got to be careful to make sure you're getting it right. Those are some of the things that we'll be charging for, but always that core offering of the free listing, the no cost leads, the no cost leases will always be at the core. And it's fundamental, not because we're offering a weaker service. Our leads are actually better quality than anybody else's in the business. And the reason for that, again, is because it's better incentive structure. We're showing the renters what they want to see, not the people who paid them the most to show them a listing. And that makes a huge difference to the renter experience. And it also makes a difference and improves quality for the landlord. So we think we'll be able to leverage that position in the long run to provide all kinds of data-based services, partner with those property management software tools, give them great data that helps them serve their clients better, and really gives that full market perspective. So I wouldn't think of us as much as a free service in the way those others have been free services. It's more like we're taking a fundamentally different approach to how this business should be run. Yeah. And the outcome for that is that landlords are going to save some money and get a bunch of new tools that they've never had before that will help them run their business more effectively, more profitably.
Yeah. I love the philosophy. I love the mindset around this. And I love the way that you interpret this as being a content driven value add. But, we've gotten so accustomed to, like you mentioned, oh yeah, it's free up until X, or, there's this surprise on the back end and whatnot and whatnot. So I really like the philosophy here. And I would probably argue that a lot of your competitors are going to hear this and be like, man, what the heck? What is this guy doing? Because it's a very disruptive mindset, but I love it. And as business owners, we are trying to build our business and have the right tools in place, but also want to manage those costs as well. I mean, you could tens of thousands of dollars a month in different services and whatnot to help with your business. But that can rack up very quickly if you don't have any substantial revenue. So I really appreciate this platform. And like you said, being free, at least to list and generate those leads. So, but in speaking to some of your competitors, I know we've talked about this offline and we won't mention any names here, but what competitive edge do you think Dwellsy has on your competitors, aside from, it being a free platform? And I'll just use that in quotes, but
yeah. I think that there's a bunch of advantages. Number one, if you're a renter looking for a place, we have more available places than any other places in the market today, which means if you're a landlord, you want to be in the place where the renters are going to find more places that suit them. Because fundamentally, there's a reason why Craigslist was so successful in this space for so long. It's because they had most of the inventory in most markets. And as a result of that, even though it was a terrible experience for most people, it was still a valuable resource for everybody involved. And Dwellsy will provide that service now that Craigslist isn't really doing that anymore. So, inventory density is a big factor there. I think, other things for the renters in the situation, we genuinely are showing organic search results on all of the other listing services. They will show you the people who paid the most to show you their listing, followed by the people who paid the next most, followed by the people who paid the next most. And what you're actually searching for often shows up on page 7 or page 10 or page 15 of your search results, and you may not ever find it. This is particularly challenging if you're interested in a single family rental or a small format, your 3-flat, your granny unit kind of property, which most American renters are interested in. That's 70-80% of the inventory in the United States. And that's where most people want to live. So we provide easy access to that in a way that others do not. From the landlord perspective, I think there's a real simplicity to listing on Dwellsy. There's no contract, there's no complexity. It's not that we're never going to try to sell you something. We are going to try to sell you something down the line. But you don't have to worry about this aspect of your business being an expensive and risky proposition. You just put your listing up, let it run, and you're using good property management software. Just list it as soon as you get that 30-day notice from your renter. Then boom, goes up, and it's available on Dwellsy. Make sure you got great photos and the kind of description I was talking about earlier, and everything works from there.
I like that, man. That's really nice, and I kind of want to dive into a little bit more about how you're sourcing these tenant leads, if you will. Again, you said you have a lot of organic search results. You're not doing a paid for type of advertising, but how are you sourcing these opportunities? So like, let's say if I have a B class property here in
Mhm.
downtown Houston, for example,
Mhm.
that's a very different demographic than, another area for say. How is the software able to source those leads and vet those leads to make sure that you're getting the right visibility for those type of assets?
Yeah. So we're showing people what they are looking for. And that, again, back to the organic search concept, that's fundamentally different than anybody else. So if you've got that B class, Houston asset, and you're worried about placement, you can pay somebody to be on the front page of search results. You can pay through the nose if you want to do that. You can't pay Dwellsy for that, but you can pay somebody else for that. And what that does is that shows your B class asset, which has a unique characteristic in terms of the type of renter that's going to appeal to a really large number of people. And you may well find within that your renter, but you're also going to find a lot of other people are going to see that and think maybe, so you get a lot of maybes coming through as a result of that. And, what I've found in my marketing career in this space is that we have always, every time we paid for that first page placement, we would see our leads go up, and we would see our ability to convert those leads into renters who are actually interested in the place collapse. And we would end up spending a lot of time with people who weren't that interested in our place. And it's a lot to wrap your brain around, because it feels good to get the lead. Somebody's interested in the place, and it feels like then the sense of personal responsibility comes in. Cody's interested in my place. It's up to me to sell Cody. Well, not all Codys are equal, right? Some Codys are really interested in your place, and some Codys just, I'm kind of bored this Saturday afternoon. Maybe I'll go see a couple of places, right? And it can be really hard to tell the difference, because everybody shows up interested in terms of how they present themselves. But the really interested versus the not interested, you really need to get back to the core. So there are a couple of things that everybody should be asking for when they're thinking about a listing service. One, are people able to find, when they're searching on that listing service, are they able to find what they're looking for? Are their organic search results showing up on the first page? Because if not, full stop, go talk to somebody else. That is a huge driver of lead quality. Second, are they able to submit a lead without providing any information? So a lot of these old-fashioned listing services, you don't need to give an email address, a phone number, a name, nothing. You can just say, I'm interested. And the lead generator says, great, you're interested, $15 cost to the landlord, because I've now given you a lead. Well, the person's not willing to give an email address and verify that email address, probably not that interested. Yeah, they're not serious. They're just, that's a looky loo. But they're not differentiating, because their incentive is to provide a lead at any cost, right? And they want the lowest possible cost to deliver a lead, so they can charge you $15 for that. And that's, again, not the way it should work. And a third thing, I can't even believe I have to say this, but there are some listing services out there that if a renter looks at a property, or if they decide that a property is suitable for a renter, whether or not the renter has expressed any interest in that property, they will send that lead to the owner of the property, to the property manager of that property, as a verified lead. That is not a lead. That is an idea.
Right.
And I saw my last company, we tried out with one of those, and oh my God, I've never been flooded with so many crappy leads of anything we've ever done in my life. So if anybody is doing that, stay the hell away from them. Excuse my language.
No, man, I appreciate that candidness, and you're absolutely right. I mean, like, again, these costs of services can be quite expensive when you're talking about lead generation and whatnot. And you're absolutely right. It's so frustrating when you're generating, maybe 1,000 leads, but your conversion rate's only 1 or 2%. Well, it's like, man, where's all these dollars going?
Yeah.
So that's a great point. And that's kind of where I was hoping to lead you into that question. I really appreciate you elaborating on that, because what we're getting is we're knowing that we're getting good quality, interested leads that we have a higher chance of converting into potential residences versus, just like you said, the 1,000 people that just clicked on it just to do it. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. So,
Cody, if one of the battles that I'm fighting now, and that, hopefully, we'll win someday, is convince all of the frontline property managers that all leads are not equal. Having run a marketing team, having been responsible for leasing on the other side, I've seen, if you're having trouble leasing that place, man, you just want more leads. You want more chances to sell. But what I saw is we were ending up in a situation with so many leads that we weren't able to. It was at Essex there. And we weren't even able to respond to most of the leads. And as the lead quality went down, it was bad for everybody. It was a bad experience for the renter. The prospective renter was interested in the place. I'm sure lots of people who were genuinely interested in the place weren't getting through to us because we were following up on leads as they came in. But, there's so many. So, focus on the sources that are going to send you quality leads, and hopefully you get the volume you need in order to get the place rented. But more leads is not better. And that's hard for all of us, because you think like, I got a lead, it's great, but what kind of lead did you get?
It's quality over quantity, quality over quantity for sure. Yeah. And I really do hope that there's some of the listeners that do have a portfolio. I mean, look, we're all tracking KPIs on our business. We're all looking at, especially from, again, the lead gen side is, I'm sure that's on probably top of several people's lists is, oh, how many leads am I getting a month? But, you got to dive into that and dissect that a little bit more and get down to the quality versus quantity. I absolutely agree. So great point there. So, well, listen, Jonas, tell us a little bit more about the vision of Dwellsy. Where do you see the company going? Where do you see the platform going in the future? And
Cody, we really see ourselves as solving this fundamental problem of rentals are hard to find, rentals are hard to rent. We want to be that default answer for I'm Dwellsying a place, if you will, either looking to get it rented or looking to find a place. And we are building to that ubiquity. So, we're already the largest listing service in the country by a number of units. We're scaled up and ready to handle a matching consumer tsunami, if you will, and working hard to, bring the brand to consumers. But the goal is to really make renting a fun search experience. I got to give a lot of credit to, the Zillows and the Trulias and the Redfins on the for sale side. They've really made the research and search process on the for sale side entertaining, data, a data rich environment that is really beautiful, and it's become a fun thing to do. Certainly plenty of stress if you're looking for a place as well, because you got time pressure and all that kind of stuff that you also have if you're looking for a rental. But the rental experience is not fun. It is a pretty miserable experience today. And we want to empower the renter to have a great experience in that process and create transparency and safety and security, and structure and organization that helps them really know what they're doing. And on the landlord side, we want to be a great partner to landlords and have it be ubiquitous to them that, of course, I might use another service here or there because I need a boost because I got a lease up or I got, something else going on. But of course, all my availability is listed on Dwellsy. That's where I get most of my leads. And we want that to be the experience. And then we want to power, be the engine that helps those property managers really serve renters and their owners more effectively than they can today, because they know more about their property. They know more about what people want from it and what the opportunity to serve the market is with that property than they've ever known before. And we're going to be the ones who are able to provide them with that kind of information to make sure that they can use it.
I love that. I love the focus around customer service, customer experience. We've kind of alluded to that several times on the show, but this platform being built around that customer experience focus is huge. And I think that's going to be very beneficial to y'all's, to the growth of the company and just very comforting to hear. Again, we're in a customer-based business. So that's awesome. So, but you mentioned one thing here, and let's kind of wrap up with this question here. Talking about the customer experience, we talked a lot about the, lead generation as far as tenant base. How about the operators? Well, for the renters, especially
Mhm.
since you want to give them a good experience, you want to make
Mhm.
sure that you're matching them with what they're looking for. Is there any vetting of the property listings or the owners that are putting their properties on these sites to for visibility? Are you looking at things like Google reviews or anything like that to kind of vet out the slumlords, if you will?
Yeah, Cody, that's such a great question. And you're getting to one of the most frustrating challenges in the space right now. The way reputation management has evolved, if I can use the technical term there, um, it's really oriented towards restaurants, which of course are going through a brutal time right now with COVID and everything. But your typical restaurant might have 100, 200, 300, 400 people go through each day who have a customer experience, and some small proportion of those people will go to Yelp or to Google or to another platform and report on their experience. And Yelp and Google and other platforms have taken that same basic technique and applied it to other businesses where the traffic is dramatically lower. You know, your typical American landlord has one or two properties, right? With typical turnover levels in the industry, they might have one or two renters in a 5-year period in those places, right? So there's just not that frequency of feedback that you really need in order to evaluate whether a property is well managed, whether a landlord really has their act together. So I will say there are some larger property managers where the signals are very clear. Like, this is a really great professional manager that's doing their very best. And there are some others where it's very clear. It's been in the press a lot lately, actually. A lot of protests around certain buildings in New York or Baltimore, or some of these other kind of older line cities across the U.S. where there are some bad actors acting as landlords there. And in those cases, you get a very clear signal that it's not a good place to live. But for the vast majority of properties, the biggest differentiator on whether your reputation in the market is good or bad is how much attention you're paying and how much you're working on that reputation, not how good the experience is of actually living there. I know some wonderfully managed properties where you have a 68-year-old property manager who's been in that property for 30 years, treats all of the residents like their grandchildren in an amazing way, and just takes amazing care of that community. But they've had a few scarring experiences over the years. As every property is not going to be perfect all the time, and people have written that up on social media, and the property looks like a disaster from that perspective. And I know other properties that are not well run, but they're all over the social media. So, they got a 4.5 on Google. And it's like, so it is really hard to figure out those signals today. And candidly, we don't have an answer to that, but we need one. And, one of the challenges that we will be working on in the years to come is how to provide that guidance and that perspective. And how do we provide the nuanced understanding to renters of what they can expect in a given place and what that landlord has a reputation for with relatively few data points. And I don't know that we'll ever get it 100% right. And I don't want to be 100% wrong, which is basically what we have in the market right now. So for the time being, I'm staying the heck away from that. And, recognizing that 99% of landlords are trying to do the right thing and 99% of renters are trying to do the right thing. But there's 1% on either side. They're,
Sure.
not necessarily the folks you want to do business with. And, as best as we can, we'll try to protect folks, but it's hard right now. Yeah. We don't have an answer today. So long answer. Hopefully that's all right. But it's a really challenging topic for all of us to wrestle with.
Sure. Well, somebody like you and with your experience and the team that you have there, Dwellsy, and your emphasis on the customer experience, I'm sure that as the platform becomes more of this industry leader, which you're already kind of there, I'm sure that you'll be able to identify those barriers and break through and really offer that service. And so really looking forward to seeing the growth of the company and the platform, and utilizing it in our own business as well. So really, really fortunate to have you on the show and walking through that. If you don't mind, tell the listeners how they can learn more about Dwellsy and get connected with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Dwellsy's at dwellsy.com. So please check it out. A bunch of information pages, as well as pages that tell you who we're integrated with, and other tools like that if you want to figure out how to list on Dwellsy, or if you want to go in and search for your place yourself. If anyone wants to get in touch with me, I'm available. Just Jonas at dwellsy.com. Love to chat if anyone's interested.
Awesome. Well, Jonas, man, really appreciate your time. Appreciate the great conversation and walking us through the platform. And, again, appreciate you having me on the show.
Cody, thank you as well. I've really enjoyed it.
Absolutely.